My name is Kay Baxter and I'm part of the Taking Care of Business team within the Health and Safety Authority. In this presentation, I'd like to discuss fire. Fire is a potential high-risk hazard in every workplace, and it can ruin lives and property in a very short space of time. So I would like to give small business owners and managers the top tips in managing fire safety in their workplaces. The safest way to deal with fire is to prevent it. Fire is a chemical reaction which requires all three elements in the fire triangle, heat, oxygen and fuel, to be present for a fire to occur. Without one or more of these, a fire cannot start. In order to manage your fire risk effectively, you need to carry out a fire safety risk assessment. This must include fire prevention, fire detection and warning, emergency escape, and firefighting. For fire prevention, as we've said, you need to look at the three elements in the fire triangle. So you need to look at what sources of heat may be present in your workplace. For example, do you cook food? And if so, do you make sure that cooking food is never left unattended? Do you have a smoking area outside? If so, where is it located? Have you made sure that it's away from any source of fuel, such as waste or gas? We all need oxygen that occurs naturally in air for breathing. However, if you use oxygen in any of your work processes, there is a chance that you may have oxygen escaping, which will cause an increase in the atmospheric oxygen and therefore will lead to a flammable atmosphere. So if you use oxygen, you must follow the precautions detailed on the manufacturer's safety data sheet, and you must make sure your equipment is not leaking. From the point of view of fuel, you need to check any flammable materials, that is any material that burns readily in normal atmosphere, like petrol, paper or flammable gases, and minimise the amounts that you keep in your workplace. You need to keep your workplace clean and make sure that any equipment and machinery you have is properly maintained. For fire detection and warning, you need to have an effective, reliable, automatic detection system linked to an automatic warning system. This means you need to have smoke detectors or rate of heat rise detectors linked to a fire alarm system. You also need to consider areas where a fire could start undetected, so you need your detection system in basements or in storage areas where people don't work or which are visited infrequently. You also need to have manual call points on your escape routes and at final exits. All this equipment must be kept in good working order, so you need to check it regularly. It needs to be serviced and maintained by a competent person, and you need to keep records of this servicing and checking. It's also important that your staff know how to use this equipment or what to do in the event of a fire alarm occurring. So you need to provide information and training to your staff in relation to fire safety. Lastly but not least, you need to have emergency escape and firefighting plans in place. Regardless of the location of a fire, once people become aware of it, they must be able to proceed safely along a recognisable escape route to a place of safety, usually outside. These routes must be clearly identified and kept clear at all times. And any fire doors or fire exit doors must always be available for use, again leading to a place of safety, usually outside. There should also be emergency lighting on these routes and exits so that people can see their way to a place of safety in the event of a power failure. Your evacuation strategy should include your emergency plan and a plan of your escape routes, and should take account of those who may need help in the event of a fire occurring. Your firefighting equipment must always be available for use in the early stages of a fire, but should only be used if it can be done without anybody exposing themselves to danger. Again, this equipment must be maintained in effective working order, and records should be kept of maintenance and service of the equipment. And yet again, employees must be trained on what action to take in the event of the fire alarm sounding or in the event of discovering a fire, the use of firefighting equipment and reporting defects in any equipment. It's essential that fire drills are held at least every 6 months to make sure your staff know what to do. To sum up, to effectively manage fire safety in your workplace, you need to first and foremostly prevent fire by managing the sources of heat, ignition and oxygen in your workplace. Secondly, and almost equally importantly, you need to check your firefighting equipment and your exits and make sure that your staff are trained and know what to do in the event of a fire starting or in the event of the fire alarm sounding.